Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I am Mick Alphaning. We have major happenings once again with Ripple, with XRP. We can't stop winning. We won't stop winning. We're gonna begin here. Ripple announces partnership with Proper Home, the real estate revolution. We've been talking about this for a long time. We're gonna take a huge chunk of real estate value from the real estate market. In my humble opinion, it will flow through us. Our offerings like Ripple, Stellar, any type of Stellar blockchain offering, Algorand. What does it do to that price to have that type of value? Now you might be asking yourself, because maybe there's a lot of new people on the channel. We've covered this a lot, but maybe there's some new people and they haven't heard these numbers before. But you might be asking yourself, how much globally, because that's another thing. So we're not limited to United States, Europe, or let's say Africa. No, we can take value from everywhere around the world. That's the beauty of blockchain, DLTs, being a global system and having corridors and routes everywhere, is that we can access more money than anybody else could, I believe, just my humble opinion, from what I've seen and what I've gathered, than anybody else in history. What does it do to that price? Now, you might be saying to yourself, circling back around, how much is global real estate value total? Well, I'm going to give you that number right now. So this is from September 9th, 2021. This is from Seville's. You know, we love Seville's. We've used a lot of their data over here, just like Statista.com. We also love them. It says, according to Seville's research, the global value of real estate reached $326.5 trillion. Let me say that again, okay? $326.5 trillion. And that is a lot of money. And I don't know about you, but I'm very excited about taking a big chunk of that money. Ripple's going after it. Algorand's going after it. Hedera's going after it. Let's say even if we took a modicum of that, what does it do to that price? Do you believe that price is going to stay where it is today? What, 43, 45 cents, 40, whatever it is. Not that it matters. You think it's going to stay where it is now? Let's say Algorand takes a chunk of that, a modicum of that. You think the price stays where it is now? Absolutely not. This is very good. Let's read this little tidbit here. Ripple, a leader in blockchain and crypto solutions, has announced a new partnership with Proper Home, a blockchain-enabled real estate marketplace, to create a renewed way to buy, sell, and rent property. So this is going to be continuous. So that means a high value, consistently high value, theoretically, once everything is up and running. Of course, it's going to take some time for everything to set in place. But that would mean in the future, theoretically speaking, a consistently high value and a consistently, I won't say consistently high volume, but I'll say a consistent volume. I'll just say that, right? The partnership, which will leverage XRP Ledger, the open source layer 1 blockchain, through an NFT utility, will provide faster, more reliable, energy efficient transactions and improve the buying experience for potential buyers. Specifically, Ripple, Prop Home, and XRP Ledger share common characteristics and purpose: efficiency, speed, transparency. Indeed, the goal of the partnership is to revolutionize. I like that word, revolution. Revolution. I like that word. Message. The goal of the partnership is to revolutionize the level of engagement in the typical tedious process of buying, selling, and renting homes. Ripple and Prop Home, here's what to know. Ripple has announced a partnership with Prop Home, and the latter explains what the differences will be and what will change from now on. As already anticipated, Prop Home is a blockchain-enabled real estate marketplace that wants to further revamp the way people buy, sell, and rent property in Portugal. Of course, that's going to expand outwardly. These offerings always have a starting point and then they expand rapidly outwardly. Like you saw what happened with Lightnet, right? You see what's happening with a lot of these offerings. You see what happened with Coinbanks. Coinbanks started off very humbly. Then they expanded out into a myriad of countries. They even, in Coinbanks, for those of you who may be new to the channel, is in conjunction with Algorand. They built on Algorand. They utilize Algorand. everywhere for everything. And it's a beautiful thing. But they started off very humbly. They expanded outwardly in South America until now they have expanded into Africa. So all of these things, just that as an example, start off humbly or as small, whichever you prefer. And then they expand, and it's great. It brings in more capital. It can bring in more partnerships. It brings more eyes to that blockchain, that technology, or DLT, if you will, if you just want to say DLT, right? So let's continue on here. It says all this through an NFT utility that will be minted on the fast and energy efficient blockchain for asset tokenization, XRP Ledger. So I'm very excited about this. This is a great thing. They're constantly coming out with partnerships. Let's move on to another article here. By the way, if you're signed up for the members only section, if your notifications may not be on or something like that, make sure you're going over to that community tab or members only tab so you can see some of those documents that I've posted. They've been very potent. I'm about to release another members only video. This article is titled XRP absorbs $1.1 million in fund flows as investors bet on Ripple side. Okay, so I'm going to cover this article here because we were talking recently about Ripple in the MENA region. They had some big happenings recently. We covered that. Also, Hedera is also big in the MENA region, most particularly the United Arab Emirates. So let's never forget that also. But I was saying before how Ripple was deep in the MENA region, right? They're only built. What happened recently is just them building on that relationship, and that a lot of that value coming out of that region at some point, at least a modicum of it. Let me say that because so many people so many people get upset and they say, well, they're not going to take everything. Well, even if they take a modicum of that, what does it do to that price, right? So oil, value of the minerals, a modicum of that flowing across the XRPL. They have a lot of business relationships there. So this is from U.Today. This is an older article, but I wanted to bring this up because we need to get some updates on some of these happenings. It says Ripple enters Morocco through Attijari Wafa's new partnership deal, right? So let's read this little tidbit here just to refamiliarize ourselves with something that we need to get an update on. Ripple is expanding into Morocco as Thunes, a global cross-border payments company, has formed a strategic collaboration with Attijari Wafa Bank. My goodness, my apologies, everyone. One of the biggest banks in Morocco and Africa. One of the biggest banks in Morocco and Africa. I don't think we need to go too much further than that, but I definitely want to look into their financials and find out how much capital is flowing through there, what they have their hands on, what they have their hands in. I think this is going to be something major in the future, especially as they're looking for a neutral party to act as an intermediary between their business happenings. I'm pretty sure in the future their business happenings between the BRICS nations and the West, they're going to need somebody in the middle, and they're going to have to, unless they want mutually assured destruction. And I mean all the powers of the world, they're going to have a neutral intermediary. It's just the way that it's going to have to be, to ensure nobody has leverage over the other and everything is as fair as possible. That's the way I see things going in the future. And I think that XRP, Hedera, and this is why Hedera had that meeting over there. I believe they know where everything is heading and they want a piece of that. Of course, they should. They're a business. Algorand, all of these bank coin companies, I believe, will be those ones. This is my humble opinion, that will act as the neutral or agnostic, if you will, intermediaries to move that type of value. So now let's look at something else we have to get an update on that has to do with that same region. So Ripple, this was from October 25th, 2021. Ripple and Pipple, PYYPL, we need to get an update on them. Pipple debut new first in market services in the Middle East. Ripple, the leading provider of enterprise blockchain and crypto solutions for cross-border payments, announces the launch of RippleNet's first ever on-demand liquidity deployment in the Middle East, together with Pipple, the international blockchain-based financial services technology company in the Middle East and Africa. On-demand liquidity leverages XRP, the best digital asset for payments, for instant and low-cost cross-border payments, eliminating the need for costly pre-funded accounts. We know about all that. Ripple was the first enterprise company to leverage crypto to tackle the trillion-dollar challenges with cross-border payments. We know that also. Here, now, quote, MENA continues to be a critical region for Ripple. And you saw what they recently did there. Thanks to our understanding roster of customers, a welcoming regulatory environment, and regional focus on the needed improvements in the current financial system. And that's right. That's directly from Brooks and Swissel. The establishment of yet another first-in-market on-demand liquidity launch demonstrates the understanding that digital assets will play a central role in the future of global payments. We are delighted to partner with forward-thinking companies like Pipple. So now let's scroll down here. The Middle East contains two of the world's largest remittance corridors, with the UAE and Saudi Arabia handling a combined $78 billion in payments in 2020 alone. Now, I believe we're going to take more than a modicum, but if we're moving any of that, what does it do to that price? It would raise. Raise a toe? Raise a toe. It would raise. This is all very good. We need to keep our eye on this. I definitely am. Now let's continue on. Let's continue on here. So this article is titled FIFA World Cup 2022 expected to be massive boost for crypto adoption. Listen, Algorand is the FIFA blockchain. All right. This is going to be a boost for Algorand majorly. And any other company that's wise enough to advertise during this time. In the future, this is going to insanely impact, in my humble opinion, insanely impact Algorand's price. The advertising is amazing. All of the value that we stand to move for FIFA also is going to be unbelievable as time goes on. Everything develops in degrees. But let's read this a little tidbit here. It says, it is arguably the biggest sporting event in the world after the Olympics. This month's FIFA World Cup is also expected to be unprecedented in launching crypto into the mainstream. One reason is because of the prominence of the industry among the event's sponsorship. Algorand is so deeply intertwined. Why don't you just say their name? I don't understand why you omit. Is there a reason you're omitting Algorand's name directly? You know that they're doing so many different things, especially the NFTs for FIFA. They've had their advertisements everywhere during FIFA events. Why do you not say their name? It's Algorand. Others may benefit, but Algorand is the prime benefit, has the prime benefit of this. Earlier this year, World Cup organizers chose cryptocurrency platform Crypto.com as one of the event's main sponsors. You mentioned Crypto.com, but why are you not mentioning Algorand? Algorand is who's prime here. My goodness. It will give the exchange exposure to an estimated audience of 5 billion viewers. Let me read that again. World Cup organizers chose cryptocurrency platform as one of, it was one of the main event sponsors, but let's talk about who is at the forefront right now. That's Algorand. The platform has been among the most successful in securing promotional deals. All right, let me scroll down. I just want to see. So this is why I'm saying, why are they not saying Algorand? Something's wrong here with this article. I don't know what their agenda is. But here's from FIFA.com itself. FIFA announces partnership with a blockchain innovator Algorand. FIFA has teamed up with blockchain technology company Algorand to agree to a sponsorship and technical partnership deal, and we know they've been doing all of FIFA's NFTs. So why would they not mention that Algorand is the prime will reap the prime benefits of all of this? So even though this article isn't telling you, I'm going to assume a lot of articles are also probably omitting Algorand for some strange reason. I'm telling you. What you do with that information is up to you. And like I said, I expect things to happen in degrees over the future, into the future. I don't expect everything to happen all at once, but yes, I expect a lot of great advertisements for Algorand, a lot of great promotion for Algorand at this event. We'll see if I'm right. I could be completely wrong, but because of that partnership, I'll read it once again. This is from FIFA.com. FIFA announces partnership with blockchain innovator Algorand. This is no secret. Everybody knows this. So anyway, let's move on to another article here. So we have an article here and it's titled Quant Price Prediction. Bull run right around the corner. I would love it. And with Quant, it can happen at any time. I'm surprised people haven't wisened up yet and really went from some of these legacy crypto offerings into Quant. Knowing how explosive Quant can be. It has a lower circulating supply than Bitcoin. And also it has way more utility. They have access to over 500 different banks via SIA Chain, SIA Partners. LAC Chain also is bringing banks to the table. I mean, What more could you possibly want? They're in a digital pound foundation. They're in a digital euro association. They've been working with the Bank of England, I believe. My goodness. I mean, what more do you need to see? So at any time, Quant could go off. This is why a lot of people say, you know, they wake up in the morning and the first thing they check is Quant, because you never know. And this, a lot of times Quant has been down, and then you wake up the next day and the price has exploded insanely. And I'm always happy about it. Let's read this little tidbit here. The Quant Q&T price has possibly completed the correction that began on October 17th. If so, the next upward movement will take it towards $270. Woo! Okay, all right, I like the sound of that. It can go way higher than that, but I like the sound of that. The technical analysis from the daily time frame shows that Q&T price began an upward movement on June 13th. The increase led to a high of $228 on October the 17th, which was beautiful. Like I said, people picked up a ton of Quant at around $40, $44, $45. That's around the time we start really covering Quant heavy. Says while the price action is not following any patterns, because there's a lot of reasons for that. This is a utility coin. It's a utility coin. Q&T broke out from the $150 area on October 13th. It is now in the process of validating it as support. The $150 area is also very close to the 0.382 fib retracement support level. So, you know, I don't put too much stock into charts, but I do find chart reading very, very interesting. And, you know, I agree with them on this. Quant, I believe, is in for another explosion. We will see. I'm very patient with it. It's one of the bank coins. We have our timeline, 3 to 5 years. Or as Ripple would say, 4 years. We had another confirmation of 5 years from someone recently. I can't remember who it was, but we covered that in the video. You guys got the screenshots, the pictures, stuff like that. It was another entity said 5 years. So 3 to 5 years. There you go. So that's the timeline. So, you know, any increases during that time is just bonus, in my humble opinion. And when the flip is switched. When the switch is flipped, then everything explodes. Once all these banks start using these types of things, XRP, XLM, Quant, Hedera, my goodness, like the volume, the value, interbank payments. I was saying recently in that video, if you didn't see that video about, I did like 2 videos back to back with XLM, a lot of heavy XLM research in it. And I was talking about how that oldest bank in Europe, it just, I didn't catch that little part of it when they said they were working on stable coins for Stellar. This is way back when, but it wasn't highlighted that stable coin was for specifically for interbank payments. That's what I didn't catch. So interbank payments across the board for most of these bank coins are trying to involve themselves in that. You saw what the Bank of Italy said when it came to Algorand, right? So you have all these banks getting involved with the bank coins. So once they're moving bank value, what does it do to that price? No matter how they utilize those particular offerings, what does it do to that price to have that consistently high value, high volume? They're moving payroll, they're doing real estate, they're doing interbank payments. What does it do to the price of that? You know, they're operating this traceability protocol. I'll say it again. I don't think that there's enough bank coins to go around, and they did it on purpose. I said this long ago, and I believe they structured it that way on purpose to leave a little bit of an opening for the legacy system. The legacy system is doing terribly right now. Like it's unbelievable how bad they're doing. This is why some of those banks are acting to block crypto transactions now. You saw what Santander is doing, even though Santander is in bed with and in deep with Ripple, right? They use that offering and such like that. I believe they're going to use a lot more offerings from Ripple, like on-demand liquidity. But hey, they're in deep with Ripple, right? But they're blocking crypto transactions and such. But why, right? This article is titled, "What the Fed's Latest Report Tells About Risks, Vulnerabilities, and Liquidity." Let's read this little tidbit here. It says, the U.S. Federal Reserve has stated in its financial stability report that economic, financial, and geopolitical risks have risen across market economies, contributing to asset price declines and periods of significant market volatility. These developments and future shocks have the potential to be amplified by vulnerabilities associated with asset valuations, really, borrowing by households and businesses, financial sector leverage, and funding risk, it said. Quote, Higher interest rates and weaker outlook for the economy led prices of financial assets to fall amid heightened volatility. But real estate prices remain elevated. Measures of equity prices relative to expected earnings declined. Risk premiums in equity and corporate bond markets were near the middle of their historical distributions, quote, the report said. It highlighted that borrowing costs continue to rise and inflation is reducing real incomes. You don't say. A combination, which is why it was so silly for, let me continue on. A combination that may pose risks to the ability of some businesses and households to service their debts, especially in the event, my goodness, the page just moved by itself. Well, you ever see one of those ads just pop up and then it just scrolls the page down? Now I lost my spot. Okay, here we go. Especially in the event of further adverse shocks to income or inflation. There's so many factors. My goodness, you have shortages everywhere that can impact things greatly. You had the Mississippi River at certain points is nearly dried up. At least this is what I'm seeing, right? Look into that. So you have barges that are stuck in certain rivers, right? I'll say it like that. Barges that are stuck in certain rivers. So some of those products are not going to move. Now, what are people going to do? There's going to be some shortages somewhere. You can look into that yourself, do your own research, okay? And you'll find it. So you have that. Then you have the diesel issue. Now, people can't make heads or tails of, are they just saying there's a diesel shortage? Or is there actually a diesel shortage, right? They can just say that because they have their certain agendas. Or is there actually a diesel shortage? Or are we going to be affected by that? Because then the truckers can't get products to these different areas. That can affect everything as well. There's so many things. Then you have the region, certain regions where wheat is supposed to come out of there. 1 minute wheat is coming out of there. The next minute wheat is not coming out of there. You have some other regions that are trying to increase their wheat output, but they're not certain if they can do it. There's so much going on that you have to take into account. You have the coal issue. Because of certain agendas, you have more coal being used than normal because of the electrical grids are run on coal. That's just how it is. The large part of it is run on coal. So, but then you have some regions that are not able to produce enough coal at this particular time for everybody to have what they need as an allotment. So then you have that. So there's all these things to take into account. I love it how they just narrow everything down to this little bit. I'm supposing that this is what they believe is digestible to the people. They treat the people like they're children, right? And they just give them this a little bit, but it's not the full picture. The people are wiser than that, smarter than that. They deserve better. That's another thing. They deserve better. And that's why they should seek out information for themselves, right? At least while you're here, I'm going to give you as much as I can, and you can make your own decision, make up your own mind. Unlike these types of entities here, I'm not trying to control what you think. Although these entities definitely are. They try to paint a certain picture and make you think a certain way, but you already know that. Here's what's happening with FTX and why it is selling millions worth of stable coins. There's been a lot of controversy over FTX. I mean, none of you should have anything to really be concerned about or worry about, because I think most of the Bankcoin family knows, don't trust exchanges. And don't leave your stuff on exchanges. Anything that's valuable to you, have it on your cold wallet. Cold wallet, all right? I prefer air-gapped cold wallet. So 2 cold wallets I do like Ledgers, but my favorite cold wallet is an Elapal Titan. Has never failed me. It can't be hacked because it's air-gapped. It's not connected to the internet. Everything's done through QR codes, passwords. You got the pattern design. You could put all of that on there and lock it up like Fort Knox. So my favorite is Elapal Titan. Whatever you do with that information is up to you. I'm not telling you to buy a Elapal. Not saying that, all right? And I don't have an affiliate code or anything like that. That's just literally, that's my favorite cold wallet, all right? So anyway, I think most Bankcoin holders know, don't keep your stuff on exchanges, especially XRP people definitely know that from their experience, right? So I don't think we have too much to be concerned with when it comes to FTX and such like that. But let's read this little tidbit here. It says, it begins with Binance. A few days ago, the Binance CEO, Changpeng Zhao, stated that they have received $2.1 billion in BUSD and FTT token after becoming one of the early investors in FTX. And their plan is to sell those digital holdings due to SBF's unethical actions. So you heard a lot about that, right? Their plan was to distribute $600 million worth of assets on the open market in the next 1 to 2 months. Says Alameda Research led Caroline Ellison publicly messaged CZ and told him to sell all of their FTT holdings for $22 in order to negate the negative effect on the asset's price. This is where the story begins. Massive outflows and self-bailout. In the last 24 hours, a large amount of stablecoins from wallets on Huobi, OKX, Qcoin, and other exchanges has been moved toward the exchange. The most likely reason is to deal with the massive withdrawals that have been caused after Binance declared that it will sell its FTT holding. Yeah, so is they're trying to combat the bank run, pretty much. You know, you have a massive entity like Binance saying, hey, we're going to liquidate everything, sell everything. You know that those numbers are going to drop. You don't know how lack of liquidity is going to affect everything. So people are just, I mean, I would assume that people are started withdrawing their money out of fear. That's a bank run, right? So it's technically the massive run from the FTX exchange. So they're even using that terminology, right? The massive run from FTX exchange is beneficial for Binance as it remains one of the biggest and most popular exchanges in the industry. Almost $500 million has already flowed off the exchange. Since traders and investors have to use some platform for operating on the market, Binance will most likely be their choice. Okay, I don't know why you would say that. There's a lot of exchanges out there that can be used, but all right. At press time, FTX faced no issues with liquidity or existing debt at press time. And this is from what you know, all right? Meaning that Binance's selling activity should not harm. And what I mean by that is it could change at any second. We know how this goes. We've been through these types of things before, and you got to be very, very careful. 1 minute, you're okay. The next minute, uh-oh. Right. So now let's move on to another article here. So this article is titled, U.S. Stocks Show Optimism Heading into Midterms Week as NASDAQ S&P 500 Futures Rally. Apple, Meta, Palantir in focus today. All right, so let's just read this little tidbit here. U.S. index futures were all in the green on Monday morning, indicating that Wall Street may start the week on a moderately positive note. Monday's economic calendar is light and doesn't boast of any market-moving data or reports. I felt the same way this morning about crypto. Traders could show apprehension ahead of the November 8th midterm elections and the consumer price inflation report due on Thursday. So you got a little information there. All right, you can keep a lookout for it. Stocks closed the week ended November 5th on a downbeat note, with technology stocks serving as drags on the overall market. The weekly losses reflected trader reaction to the Federal Reserve 75 basis point rate hike, which should increase in the future. It should be 100 basis points if they really want to bring down inflation. But like I've been saying it for a long time, they had these elections are around this time. Maybe it's today or tomorrow, something like that. So they don't want to, put on an ugly face, so to speak, and leave people with a bad taste in their mouth, even though the people should know who is the reason for most of their suffering right now. So I don't understand why that would, why they would think that the people are so aloof that they're not aware of who's responsible for a great deal of their suffering, especially printing all that money. Now you got to remove it from the supply. I mean, the illusion of liquidity, which we'll get into in a little bit later. But the Fed, the government, is to blame for that. So I don't understand that type of thinking. But this is what they do. They think that the people are more ignorant than they really are, while in reality, the so-called powers are the ones who are actually exposing their own ignorances, right? The weekly losses reflected trader reaction to the Federal Reserve 75 basis point. Nevertheless, stocks ended the week on a firmer footing. All right, so now let's continue on here. Altcoin season imminent. I love to hear that. Says Bitcoin dominance drops to 4-year low despite Bitcoin reclaiming 21K. Also, you have seen certain cryptocurrencies break free of Bitcoin, so-called Bitcoin dominance, which we all know why that is, why it moves in conjunction with everything else, and who is controlling that. It's obviously controlled. It's not happening on its own. All right, but we've seen other cryptocurrencies. One, for example, Quant, break free of the manacles around its neck, right? So that's a good indicator as well. But anyway, let's continue on here. Bitcoin's dominance continues to drop despite the maiden digital assets recording of a relief rally in recent weeks. Notably, Bitcoin dominance is a crucial metric for the crypto sector since it might have other implications for the possible price trajectory of most assets, particularly altcoins. Indeed, as of November 5th, I like that. Indeed. Okay. I like you, writer. Bitcoin market dominance had plunged to an over 4-year low of 38.3 38.67%. The digital asset last recorded a similar drop in market dominance on June 10th, 2018 at 38.19%, according to CoinMarketCap data. The drop aligns with a historic premise indicating that once Bitcoin dominance drops, characterized with a surging value, it offers a hint of a possible altcoin season. I'm all for it. I'm ready. I like to have a little bit of fun. Why not? And we'll make if altcoin season does begin, we're gonna make a lot of money. A lot of money. We know all the right plays. We know exactly where to go. We know what's going to explode, and we know how to play it safe. We know how to protect ourselves. So, I mean, let the altcoin season begin if that's going to occur. I'm very excited about it. Hopefully it happens. So now let's go into another article here. Exxon Mobil to start gas reserve seismic surveys in Greece. Let's read this little tidbit here. Exxon Mobil will start conducting seismic surveys in 2 blocks southwest of Greece's Peloponnese Peninsula and the island of Crete in the coming days, Prime Minister said on Monday. Greece, an entry point for natural gas in the Eastern Mediterranean, aspires to become a gas producer and a hub for the storage and transfer of gas to the rest of Europe, given its location and investments on related infrastructure. Our country, regardless, is a quote, our country, regardless of its focus on a fast green transition, is obliged to explore if it has the potential to mine natural gas, which will contribute to our country's energy security and Europe's. This is how a lot of countries should be thinking, because they're not ready to completely go on those alternative energies just yet. They're not. Everything in their countries mostly functions off of the existing energy that is available. And without that, a lot of people are going to be suffering greatly because they can't afford a lot of the new energy things that are going around. They just can't. Even with certain so-called incentives and such, they just can't do it. So this is very interesting. Something I would keep my eye on. Exxon Mobil is the operator owning 70% of the rights for looking for hydrocarbons off of Crete. Hellenic Q Energy holds the rest. There you have it. What you do with that information is up to you. So that's going to be very interesting to keep an eye on. Let's continue on here. So another reason here why I believe that the bank coins are going to explode, because they're all the first to go completely green, carbon neutral, and some of them even carbon negative, right? Says, here's an article here and it's titled, "Why It's Time to Transfer the Entire Supply Chain to Net Zero." So it says the transport of goods around the world requires a massive amount of energy, which is typically derived from fuels. This result is a significant release of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, contributing to, in addition, the shipping industry is a major source of air pollution. So pretty much what they're saying is anybody who gets in on this as a traceability protocol for what's being used so they can whittle it down, so they can find these corporations. There's a lot of value that's going to move through this also. They're going to need payroll. Everything they do is going to have to be green. This is another reason to love the bank coins. Simple as that. They're not going to stop pushing this agenda, and somebody's going to win. It's not going to be the rest of crypto. The new financial system has someone out at the forefront of green technologies, green energies, and it is the bank coin family. So now that you have that information, what are you going to do with it? I know what I'm going to do with it. So until next time, let's get to the money.